And by the way, you're going to be joining me and Lev and Malcolm and welcome. Oh no, it's not. They're not on
Wait,
yet.
you can
Yeah,
get more than 3 people at the same time? Hi.
no, but you're going to end up joining myself and Malcolm and Lev and Joe Walsh when we go on the road. I think we're
Oh,
going to start off first in Philadelphia. We're going to hit upstate, maybe upstate New York also. We want to start going into the purple and also the red areas, as we're beginning to go through this stupidity, which is one of the things that I actually want to talk to you about today.
yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, I'm talking about Governor Greg Abbott um, paying back a favor to the president. And I get it. You owe the guy a favor and you owe the guy a favor. But is it really supposed to be the complete annihilation of a state's, redistricting? Is it really supposed to be where you now interfere with people's voting rights and whether or not they matter any longer?
Right. Well, I mean, I guess as Gavin Newsom recently posted on Substack, the governor of Texas is threatening to remove democratically elected, legislators to 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 help a president rig an election, to help Republicans rig an election that they know that they're going to lose. They cannot win legitimately. So like everything they do, they're going to cheat. And unfortunately, that means that the Democrats have to fight fire with fire. You know what
So
I mean?
did you see my Substack of this morning?
No, I
I
haven't
mean,
seen it yet.
that's the entire premise. It's we don't. And I want to just say this, not as a pushback, but just as let's just say a contrarian position. We believe because historically the House, the party that controls the White House tends to lose the House and or the Senate or both. That's
Yeah.
just historically. However,
Yeah.
um, we cannot say for certain that that's going to happen. In fact, something I write about and I constantly try to press people, do not take anything for granted,
No.
right? Do not take anything for granted because he's managed to defy the odds. I mean, winning all 7 swing states. You think that maybe he defied the odds? Could he defy the odds again in 2026 for the midterms? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we don't have that. That's why I'm constantly calling for Democrats to start guerrilla grassroots campaigning.
Mm-hmm.
And they just don't do shit. And don't tell me, yeah, Gavin Newsom, he's already now. I mean, J.B. Pritzker has all of the Democrats now staying in one of his hotels,
Yeah.
right, in Illinois.
Yeah.
He happens to be a very nice guy.
Oh yeah, I met him.
Great,
Yeah.
wonderful, fantastic for opening up your home, right, your property to your fellow, leaders.
Right.
As of, I believe, an hour or so ago, and I haven't had a chance to check any updates onto it, but Governor Abbott said if they are not back in the House to vote, he's going to remove them and replace them with other people.
You can't do
That
that.
to me, I find incredulous, right?
Yeah.
That he thinks he could even do that.
Well, I mean, does it surprise you that he thinks he can do that? I mean, this is a party that that has been able to get away with a whole lot of overreach without a whole lot of pushback, without a whole lot of consequence. Like, I mean, that's the model. This fish is rotten from the head down. This is what they do. I mean, it's never measure and then cut. They don't measure twice and then cut once. They just cut and fuck the measuring. He's just going to do whatever he wants and then let the chips fall where they may. Somebody put in the chat here that they gavelled in the
Then
Texas
I'm going to
state
have to put on my glasses because I can see you, right?
Yeah.
But I can't see anything that's small there. These are my
Well,
readers.
if it's any consolation, I have also reached the I have glasses stage of life, which is very new for me. But I also have glasses, which is probably a little smudged. But it's amazing how much better I can read these comments. But yeah, but by the way, I don't think I've ever worn these on anything publicly anywhere ever. So that's a first.
Are those glasses or readers like mine?
They're readers. They're
Yeah,
just
mine too.
readers. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see, but I can't read. Like, so what happened was, like, with all of us, with my daughter who's 12, I'd be like, what is that? Before I had these, like, what does that say? And she'd have to read them. So now I have these, but thank you for the, but yeah, thanks everybody. Okay. I'm fishing for compliments. Now here, hi, what do you think of my readers, friends? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, they gavelled in.
JoJo the librarian. She's the sexy librarian you wish you had in school.
Okay, we're gonna put those away now, and we're gonna move on. Back to Texas. The legislature gavelled in, so apparently they're not there. So Abbott, balls in your court. What are you gonna do there, buddy? Yeah, he can't do that. He can't arrest them like he's also threatened to. This is insanity. But fighting fire with fire, Newsom, Hochul, we've got other states that can do this too, friends. The Republicans don't want to talk about that.
Right. So 2 questions. First and foremost, how come everybody turns around? JoJo puts on a pair of readers. All of a sudden, oh my God, look how cute she looks. Me, I put it on. All of a sudden, it's like E equals MC square. It's like, seriously? It's like, yeah, you look like a fucking nerd.
I think it was because my glasses case is an animal print. That's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah.
It could be. Okay. Yeah. Now, getting back to this.
Yeah.
What bothers me the most, I've never been somebody that has to telegraph what it is that I'm doing. If I was running the DNC, we already know now for weeks, what they intended to do, that they were redrawing the maps prior to the 10-year census. All they're doing is taking an AI program, by the way, is corrupt as a practice that it is. You have to also give them a check for ingenious, because they know that they have a problem, right? That it's such a thin margin. They're trying to stack the deck for a guaranteed win. You got to give them credit for creativity here. They go to AI, they put the whole map in, they're able to figure out who's who in the area. They've figured out, using again AI, how to redraw these maps in order to give them a 5-person advantage in the state. Right. Now, when they heard that, meaning the DNC, Ken Martin, everybody wants to talk about Cory Booker and Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer and so on. So let me ask you this. If I was in that leadership position, you know what I would do, JoJo?
What?
I would have already been meeting with Governor Hochul here in New York. I would have met with J.B. Pritzker, with Gavin Newsom, and every single state that has a Republican governor. And I would be meeting with them for the sole purpose. The second that they do that, we redraw the lines, we put it onto the floor, and we do the same thing. Yeah. And if you start adding up the big states with how many seats that you can actually take, doing the same thing that they did,
right?
You're probably talking about 13 or 14 seats, easy. Just those 3 states. Yeah. Maybe more.
Yeah. And again, in terms of like selling this to the American people, I'm not a fan of selling, anti-democratic strategies. That's not who we are, right? This is supposedly not who we are. But at the same time, if they're going to be taking the rule book and setting it on fire and then throwing it into the Rio Grande, then we really only have one choice, which is to start playing by the new rules. I don't like that at all. But the case to the American people in New York and California and Illinois and New Jersey and other blue states with Democratic governors is you're not going to let these people in Texas decide your future, because that's what they're trying to do. You didn't vote for Greg Abbott. You didn't vote for these Republicans in Texas. You didn't vote for Ken Paxton. And yet they're trying to force a Republican House on you with massive implications that is not the natural course of democracy in this country. And what that does, what that tells all of the American people, is that a handful of red governors and red legislators are trying to take away your voice, your autonomy, your role in shaping your immediate present and the futures for your children and your children's children. And you're not going to let them do that. This is our chance right now to stand up and say, no, this isn't just about what's happening in Texas or any other red state. This is about what they're trying to do to democracy all over this country. And we cannot and will not let them.
Because the Republican ideology is the only way for them to govern is to have complete and total control over the process.
Right.
One thing that they don't want any pushback. Zero. Trump turns around and says that he wants Emile Beauvais as a judge, right? An appellate court judge.
Right.
Okay. You're a judge. It reminds me of like that old Schoolhouse Rock thing, right? You know, oh, you're a banana. Want to be a banana? Okay, you're a banana, right? It's the same. It's the same exact thing. You know, this is who he wants. As Ramsey said in the movie The Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston, so it has been said, so it shall be done. And these feckless fucknuts, they just fall straight in line, whether or not the person is competent or not.
Right.
And this is why we have what we have, you know?
Yeah.
And we have to stop screaming, oh, this is corruption, this is shady, this is the... We have to fight fire with fire. If that's the way the game is going to be played, we don't want to play it this way. But since you open up the door, no problem.
Yeah.
Mind you, Texas, 62% minority. You know that?
Yeah.
62% non-white. So here's my question for you. Now, maybe I'm different because I'm a Yankee, right? I'm like you, up here in the North. Is there really no Texans down there who are Republican that, for whatever the reason, are turning around and saying, no, that's bullshit. That's just a step too far? Where are these people standing up? Why is the DNC not there right now protesting, marching the streets, fucking organize? Organize. And by the way, folks, please, since JoJo is so cute today, smash the hearts for JoJo. Don't even smash them for me. I'm just E equals MC square, right? JoJo looks cute. Do me a favor, smash the red hearts for JoJo. And by the way, that little square with the up arrow, I'm the square, she's the up arrow. That's to share. Share it with your family, friends. This is not a joke. All right. This isn't a joke. And we try to have a little bit of fun here because I just can't constantly be pulling the fire alarm for everyone. All right. I need your help.
Yeah. And
JoJo needs your help. We need your help.
Well, the country democracy needs your help. Our futures need your help. But here's the thing, Michael. I have Texas is near and dear to my heart for a million reasons. But my paternal grandmother was actually raised in El Paso. Her father was sheriff of El Paso before she was shipped off to Lebanon as a very young teenager to marry a man she'd never met, to have 3 kids by the time she was like 17, which is a whole nother story. But Texas is near and dear to my heart. And I know this from people in Texas who actually say that the Republicans there, for large measure, aren't Trump Republicans. They're not like MAGA Republicans. They're old school, like what conservatives used to be, Republicans. And I'd be willing to wager, even though I don't know, that a lot of those folks are like, I mean, I don't know how to do a Texan accent, but they're probably like, this don't smell good. You know what I mean? And that's another part of this, is that their legislators, people like fucking asshole Ken Paxton, who and Greg Abbott and others who are just falling in line, don't give a crap about their own constituents. They don't care about
So imagine if we can now go and say, you know what? Forget about the fact Democrat, Republican. I'm merely talking about as an American citizen.
Mm-hmm.
Simply as an American citizen, do you believe that your vote should count?
Yeah.
Do you believe that your neighbor's vote should count?
Right.
Do you believe that your neighbor who is of color's vote should count?
Mm-hmm. Or that they should be represented, that people who look like you, people who from the vast tapestry across the makeup of this country, if your elected officials should look like you, should represent you, if we should have equal representation. What they've done potentially with this map is drawn Jasmine Crockett's, where she lives, out of her district. Her town is being drawn out of the district she currently represents. So not only are they taking your voice from you, they're taking your representation from you, they're taking the diversity that is embodied by this country away from everybody. And that is not only anti-democratic, it's anti-American. And as we saw in ballot measure after ballot measure in the last several cycles, what the American people overwhelmingly will say is that they want their right to exercise their voice in this democracy. We've seen it in the 16 different counties and districts that voted for Donald Trump in Ohio, that voted for issue 1, because they still want functioning democracy. And what they're doing in Texas is not that. They are cheating because they need to rig an election they know they're going to lose, because they're allergic to accountability, and they know that's exactly what is coming. A bulwark to Trump and the Republican agenda, and also finally, accountability for what they've been doing unchecked up until now under Donald Trump.
Right, but by the way, what Trump is doing is actually legal. We may not like it. I say this on
Some of it.
television, it's legal.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And the stuff that is questionable, you have people like my buddy Norm Eisen, who is right now on my Mea Culpa podcast, where we talk about it. Norm Eisen, they filed like 200 lawsuits against various different executive orders and actions that have been taken. But what they're getting away with, we may not like it, but it's legal. I'm with you. If in fact we need that to stop, and I bring this up not as the defender of Republicans, not as the defender of Trump. If he is successful in doing what he's doing, there's only one way for us to stop it. And that way is to control either the House or the Senate.
Yeah.
And I'm going to parrot exactly what JoJo just said a minute ago, to hold someone accountable. Without having either the House, the Senate, or both, there is no accountability, because the Republican members, they're not standing up. They each turned around and said, you know what? I cannot vote for this big, beautiful bill. I will not do it. 13 or 14 Republicans came straight out and said, I cannot vote for the big, beautiful bill because it cuts Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, food stamps, assistance, and so on. Children's lunches, and so on. They said, I just can't do it. Well, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
It took Trump and his team under 48 hours to change these fuck nuts' mind like that.
Yeah.
Under 48 hours, my JoJo.
Yeah.
48.
I mean, it's not a, it's really sad. They're not a guardrail. They're not a check on any abuses or overreaches. I mean, I remember I was talking about this recently. I read How Democracies Die in the lead up to the 2016 election. And I remember a part that really stood out for me because what they were talking about was how some of these things could hold and how democracy could hold. And they were using Nixon, and they were talking about, those in Nixon's party who were the guardrails for democracy, who actually put country over party. And if we could just do that in 2016 and beyond, that we might be okay. Well, obviously, they have abdicated all of their responsibilities to the country. Not only is this not even service to their party anymore, this is service to Donald J. Trump. That's it. I mean, we have Senator Cassidy voting to confirm RFK Jr. We have, people that like Joni Ernst voting to confirm Pete Hegseth. They have abdicated their responsibilities, their check on the executive so far, so long ago. They jumped the shark so badly that I don't think that there is any recovery for them. And that is, again, why the alarm has to ring so loudly as to why we need to regain whatever control and wherever we can. And yeah, you guys in the comments are right. The Supreme Court is a huge, huge problem. They are also they are a political entity now. They are the political judicial arm of Donald Trump's administration. That's what they are. But all of this means it's that much more imperative that we hold on to and reclaim whatever power we can. And the House, traditionally, like I said, whatever president is in office, usually the following midterm, we see the pendulum swing back. Traditionally, the House should be going Democrat, and this big, beautiful bill, the billionaire boner bill, is one of the most unpopular pieces of legislation since they've even been tracking this. So they know what they have done is wildly unpopular, so they have to try and cheat, and that's where all of us need to be outraged. And that's why people, whether you live in Texas or whether you live in New Jersey or whether you live in West Virginia, this should matter to you. And we all need to come together and figure out a way, which the Democrats are, of stopping them.
Yeah, and we have to then also take into consideration that 2026 is going to be a real serious problem for the Republicans, because we are right now beginning to see the effects of the tariffs. How
Yeah.
many times have people heard me say consumers pay tariffs? Tariffs are taxes.
Yeah.
I want every single one of you to turn around and then just send those 2 3-word slogans to 5 friends and tell them to send it to 5 friends. Let's make that go viral. Why? Because it's a fact. It's a fact. And tariffs don't apply to political party affiliation.
Right.
Whether you are Republican, Democrat, or independent, whether you live in Jersey, New York, or California, or Illinois, or Alabama, or Kentucky, or New Orleans, it doesn't make a difference. You are already beginning to feel the effects of the tariff bills. Plain and simple. Everything is more expensive. The supply chains have been hampered. And as a result, when people start feeling it in their pocket, when mom and dad can't afford, as a result of the big, beautiful bill and other ridiculous, legislation, they can't afford their medical supplies. They're calling you for help because the cost is up, despite when he turns around and he says things like, thanks to his administration, the price of medication is down 1,300%, 1,400%, even 1,500%. I was reading early this morning a very funny take on that 1,500%. And the way that, if you understand math, if, let's say, the cost of your drugs is $10, by going in, if they save you 1,500% on that $10 prescription, every time you go in to fill the prescription, the pharmacy has to pay you like $150. That's how the math works.
Yeah.
And so I want people to realize just how fundamentally foolish that notion is. Maybe turn around and say, imagine if somebody turned around and said, I'm reducing your prescription costs by 50%. You would say, holy shit, thank you.
Yeah.
Or even as Biden did, and I still know, I'm not a great big fan of the Biden administration either, by the way, but he turned around and he said, they are going to cap insulin at whatever the amount was. So you now know exactly how much it's going to cost, because the cost of insulin, depending upon whether you are or you're not covered, is anywhere from like a $10, $15 copay to $150. So
Right.
you're not supposed to be rationing your insulin so that you could afford food and rent.
No. No, but I don't know about you guys, but I went to the grocery store and I also got $150 for buying eggs. I don't know if you knew that, Michael. Not only am I getting paid to go pick up my prescriptions, but I'm getting paid to go. It's like $400 actually to pick up a dozen eggs the other day, because they're just, the eggs are 400% less expensive. Meanwhile, by the way, just so we're clear, and I don't want to see anybody, not anybody here, because everybody's very smart here, but anybody out there who's going to tell me that Donald Trump is going to personally foot the $200 million bill for that gilded monstrosity that they're going to saddle up next to our house, in addition to the $1 billion price tag for that flying Timu Versailles that he's going to take with him yet again, thanks to his self-gelding toadies in Congress. But of course, all of that. But the rest of us, our kids have to go with fewer dollies, and we need to pay more for every Procter and Gamble product, and we need to pay more for our groceries, and we need to pay more for everything else. Also, gas is nowhere in this country under $2 a gallon, but he'll tell us that all day long too. At least 5 states, it's $1.98. A simple Google search will prove that that's not correct. But we have money all day long for ballrooms and flying palaces, but the rest of us need to go with less. The rest of us need to have our dollars go less far. 67% or something like that of Americans right now are worried about affording groceries. The thing that he ran on. And groceries are more expensive year over year right now than they were last year. Thank you very much, Donald Trump.
Right. So we're talking about just gasoline and groceries. If you take a look at AAA, which every day puts out a report, what the national average is, and you could break it down by state. I actually happen to have looked at it. $3.15 a gallon.
Yeah.
That's how much it is.
That's under $2. Not one state under $2. Not one.
So why make a statement? And this is what I just don't understand. Where are the people around him that are supposed to protect him from these misinformation, disinformation, malinformation? I'm looking for $1.90, $1.99 gasoline too. But the other day I paid $3.37. Actually, it was in New Jersey. So I get it. I get it. It sounds good. The problem is it's just not true. And we had a couple of people in the comments that say, well, I don't understand. How if it's 1,500%, would they end up having to pay you the same way that it's 500% for eggs and so on? Let me break it down in the most simplistic of ways as it relates to math. If hypothetically a carton of eggs is $10 and he saves you 100% onto it, your cost for the eggs is zero, right? If it's $10 and he saves you 100%, that means you pay nothing. It's zero. So now just figure how much 1,500% savings will ultimately end up. It becomes a negative number, plain and simple. That's just math.
Just math.
I just don't understand why, with all of this going on, Republicans are getting hurt, Democrats are getting hurt, independents are getting hurt with the big, beautiful bill. I get it. Now do something about it. And those are the people, JoJo, that I want you and me and Lev and Joe Walsh and Malcolm Nance, when we start going around the country, these are the people I want to talk to.
Yeah.
And I don't want to preach to them. I don't want to turn around and say, you just MAGA stupid, right? And so on. No, I'm not here to debate you on whether or not building this ballroom is a good idea or a bad idea. I can actually go either way in that argument.
90,000 square feet. I'm not going. Sorry. We'll talk about
I'm
that in a
just
second.
saying I can go in many different directions onto it. Is it necessary? No. Is it functionable? Yes. Should it be 90,000 square feet? I don't know. Do we really need a 90,000 square foot ballroom? Right? Which, by the way, they're going to use for their super PACs. They're going to use it for, for various different functions. 90,000 square feet. That's pretty freaking big.
The existing White House is only 55,000 square feet.
I mean, and obviously you realize it's going to be called the Trump Pavilion or something like that, right? So, now he has Republicans making bills to put onto the floor in September 2nd, when they come back to carve his face into Mount Rushmore. They're now changing. They want to change the name from the Kennedy Performing Arts Center to the Melania Trump Performing Arts Center. I get it. I get it. He loves the name and so on. But is it necessary? No.
No.
I want to ask people in Texas. I want to ask people in ruby red districts. Don't you believe that your vote should count? And if in fact you do, you must stand against a governor that wants to strip away your neighbor, maybe your friend, maybe your enemy's right, within which to have their vote count. And I say that not because you're doing it because it's right, but because you don't want that to happen to you. And we always know everything goes in cycles. We saw when Obama had the White House, the Senate, and the House.
They got wiped out in the midterms.
All right. They sure did. But we saw it. Nobody ever pulled this shenanigans.
No.
There was still bipartisanship. We have lost the ability to work with anyone on the other side of the aisle. And that is a danger to America's democratic republic.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, this ebb and flow, this pendulum swing that is, changing of majorities in the chambers of Congress. This is part of the process that helps us to correct and to hopefully continue to move the chains towards perfecting this little experiment of ours. They want to take that away. They want to stop the will of the American people. I'm reading one of the Texas reps here, the Democrats said this is another thing, Michael, that if I were in Texas, this would incense me. This would make my blood boil. Over 130 Texans died in the July 4th floods. Republicans responded with 0 flood relief bills, but a mid-decade redistricting scheme to help Trump cling to power. That's what they're doing. That's what's so even more insidious and disgusting, is they're using a tragedy where young girls died, where they drowned, their families lost everything in losing their children who are never coming back. They're never sitting at that dinner table again. And Republicans weren't moved enough to simply pass legislation about that. No, they're using that to carry this redistricting scheme on its back. And that is grotesque. And that is Donald Trump's Republican Party, because they are so depraved. They are so immoral. They are so stripped of decency that this is what they're doing. And it should anger every Texan, regardless of what letter is next to their name or how they voted. And it should anger every American that those children died in that state, in that horrible flood, for representatives in their state legislature to be using their deaths as a delivery system for anti-democracy. That is exactly what they're doing. And if I were living in Texas, I would be out on the street. I would be in the state house. I would be raising hell, because they deserve better. Those children and all of those victims and their survivors of their families deserve better than that.
Yeah, man, look, I stand with you on that belief. There's an old expression: when you lose your parent, you lost your past. When you lose your child, you lose your future. These families lost their future. They lost their children. Where's the cry? Where's the cry? What about the children, for example, that are still here with us? What about those that don't have the financial wherewithal for the parents to pack a decent lunch for them so that they don't sit in school with their stomachs growling because they're hungry?
Mm.
I don't care what party you are affiliated to. No child in America should go to school and not look forward to some form of a lunch, and a healthy lunch.
Yeah.
Instead, we're going to put it into a ballroom. We're going to remake a $250 bill. You heard about that? Or now the $500 bill with Trump's face on it. By the way,
God.
my understanding was that as a country, we're kind of moving away from cash.
Yeah. Well, yeah. All of that, you're right, and excellent points. But this idea about the children in particular, this one really gets me, right? Because we're parents, and that they have so long propped themselves up as the party of, the family values, the party that protects children. Meanwhile, like you said, they will let kids starve in schools before they'll feed them. They will let a 10-year-old, they will force her to carry her rapist baby to term. This is the same party that right now is, all of them, by the way, are protecting and running interference for child sex traffickers. They are protecting the people involved in one of the most infamous child sex trafficking scandals in our country's history. They moved the woman, if you want to call her that, the monster who not only helped but participated, threatened the lives of these young girls in Florida and New York and elsewhere. They just moved her to a club fed where she gets to go for dog walks and gets to do yoga and be outside all day long. They're protecting her while they say that they are the party that protects children. And it just drives me absolutely insane how people, and there's anybody who doesn't see what they're doing, and that every time they say they're protecting kids from a trans athlete being on their daughter's softball team, which, by the way, statistically, that's not gonna happen. They're not protecting your kids from drag queens or immigrants that are gonna eat the cats and the dogs. They're not. They're not, because what they're too busy doing is protecting their own. They're protecting the millionaires and billionaires who preyed on these young girls in Florida. And all of us should be outraged by that. I want to know, Michael, where is the press on the fact that she was not supposed to be moved? She's not a white-collar criminal. She's a child sex offender who was in that prison for a reason.
Let me go one step further. As somebody who was in a satellite camp, you cannot be in a satellite camp with 20 years. It has to be under 10. This was a major exemption that they provided her. Question becomes, what's next?
And why?
What's next?
Yeah. Right. And why isn't that a bigger story? I don't understand this. I don't understand how everybody was all up in arms all this time about what's in the files. Let's see the files. We know that his name's been redacted from the files, whether there are files or no files. Ghislaine Maxwell We know this. She was convicted for this. And Todd Blanche goes down to Florida and has 2 meetings with her. All of a sudden, we need to talk to this woman. And within the next couple of less than 2 weeks' time, a 20-year sentence, child sex trafficker, is moved to one of these satellite camps where her life just got a whole lot better. And yeah, what's next and what's in it for her and what's in it for Donald Trump? Why isn't this a bigger scandal? I just don't understand it.
Well, let me say to you this way, because I've actually repeated this also on television, and there's I don't know how many countless articles. I don't know what's in that file. And before I go ahead and point the finger, what's Trump in it? Is he not in it? Is he only in it based upon the black book and the flight logs? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And as an attorney, or one soon to hopefully get my license back, one of the things that I predicate my comments on is facts. Because we all can have some form of an opinion. That's great. And everyone's entitled to their opinion. It just doesn't mean anything. I want the immediate release of the entire file, unredacted, so that we can have a legitimate answer into what's going on here.
Yeah.
However, let's talk facts. Something that you just spewed out in a 3-minute diatribe that was literally precise. Todd Blanche goes down as the Deputy Attorney General of the United States of America, not for the benefit of the United States, but on a fact-finding mission to respond back to the president.
Mm-hmm.
That's factual. He said so himself. So
Yeah.
I'm not drawing conclusions. I am stating facts. Next thing you know, they have a 2-day meeting. That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I only work off of facts. Here's fact number 3. Several days later, there's paperwork within which to transfer her from that facility in Florida to Texas, to what they're referring to as a cushy camp. And I want to be very clear. None of these camps are cushy. I did, however, happen to see on television the one that they sent her to in Texas, in Bryan, Texas. Got to be very honest with you. It's a whole lot nicer than the shithole that I was at. That I can assure you. Mine was like fucking garbage. It should be leveled. Putting all that aside, I, like you, want to know why.
Mm-hmm.
Why? What did she give to Todd Blanche that she should be rewarded for a step down from the facility that she was at to a satellite camp?
Yeah. And Michael, so many people have put in the comments um a, a, the word victims, and don't talk to Ghislaine Maxwell, talk to the victims. And
Yeah.
like, as a survivor of sexual assault, I talk about this openly. Like, that's where my mind and my heart, also as a mom, right, of a young girl and a young boy, but as a survivor, my mind goes to those victims and what happens and has happened to them, to their stories, to their reality, to their trauma. Not just them, and I don't mean to use the word just there, but to every survivor of sexual and or domestic abuse. What happens? What are we telling them? That they don't matter, that their trauma is irrelevant, that their stories are are something that we can throw away, that they're discardable. And what does that tell every person who has to endure horrific realities like the ones that they've had to endure. It tells them you're meaningless, you don't matter, your trauma doesn't matter. Because it's hard enough to get survivors to come forward and speak about what happened to them. It's hard enough because they're told all the time that no one believes them. They're told that it was their fault. And people, when they're traumatized by this kind of violence, they can believe those things. And then they can commit acts of self-harm. They can do all manner of things to destroying themselves and their lives. And what are we telling our society by making deals with a monster while not acknowledging the stories and every young boy and girl in this country, every woman and man who's ever been subjected to that same kind of horrible awfulness. We're telling them that they don't matter, that this is okay, that you reward the predator and punish the prey. That's what we're telling them. And as a mom, no, just no, you can't do that. I refuse to let that slide. Sorry.
No, listen, I get it. It brings back all the feelings that you had, the trauma that you felt. Now just imagine these poor young girls, these children, sex trafficked by this monster, this disgusting, I can't even call her a human, this piece of shit.
Yeah.
And now we're making deals. I get it. Please understand. I understand the way the system works. I'm going to use as an example. How the United States government worked alongside murderer like Whitey Bulger, right? Let him do his killing, his drug runs, because he was providing enough information that assisted government in taking down more monsters and disgusting human beings. Goes back to the statement I made earlier. What did she provide? What information could she possibly have given that would validate a move of a transfer to a satellite camp? And by the way, generally, the way that those transfers go, you don't get a plane taking you directly from Florida to California. They put you on a bus. It's called diesel therapy. Okay? When they transfer inmates around the country, they put them into a bus. It looks like that movie Con Air when they're on the bus.
Mhm.
You're shackled to your seat in something called the box. So your ankles are shackled and your wrists are shackled, and there's a long metal chain that's placed into a black box. So you have only the ability to move your arms up and down, not even to the right or to the left. You have limited mobility and you cannot move. They also don't drive you from Florida directly to California or Texas, where she's at. They don't do that. What they do is they stop along the way, because it's not all people, inmates from one facility. They'll stop at another facility, pick people up. That trip from Florida to Bryan, Texas could take a week. A week. They really know how to make the average person suffer. So I'm going to ask one more time, JoJo. What info do you think she possibly could have given that nobody knew about before that would validate making this type of a transfer?
Well, first of all, I think that it may not be about anything that she says in terms of other people being incriminated, although it might be. I think number one, what I'm guessing is that she needs to exonerate him. And she needs to say, and why anyone would trust her like this really bewilders me. Why anybody, even MAGA, who has been foaming at the mouth for all of the Democrats that they say are in the files, etc. Why anybody would trust her is beyond me. But I think what she's going to say is that unequivocally Donald Trump was never involved, never participated, was never out the island. He was never at the New York home, that she never saw him. I'm guessing. I don't know. Obviously, there could be more than that. She could be. She might have to say, yes, Bill Clinton was there. Yes, Bill Gates was there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. She might be able to provide some kind of incriminating, testimony to that fact. He would love that. I'm sure, like nothing else, because it takes the spotlight off of him. But I'm going to guess that she needs to clear his name, because that's what he wants. That's why he sent all of those FBI agents on 24-hour shifts to scrub, we now know, 100,000 pages of documents to redact his name from all of it. Like, he knows that he's all over this stuff. So someone has to come in and cover for him. And, well, she's the only person who can potentially give firsthand information to cover for him. And it seems to me that that's what he's doing. And again, why every single person with a single firing synapse in their brain can't put two and two together and ask themselves the logical conclusion question there, which is why? Why? You don't have to ask Ghislaine Maxwell to cover you. You don't have to ask the FBI to redact your name from 100,000 pages of files. I don't know anybody who does personally, but he does. And the question should be, why? What does that say? If there's nothing to hide, why is he going to such great lengths that a child sexual predator monster?
And that's why I constantly say, release the fucking documents. You see, nothing that she says, and like Jacqueline Sutton, I'm not defending Trump. And if you can't understand the difference between speaking factual accuracy, I understand what you want, Jacqueline. And I understand what those people, all people who have a disdain for Trump want. Yeah, he's guilty. He was on the island. He was here. He was there. He was everywhere, and so on. Facts matter. Mm-hmm. And the only way we are going to get those facts so that we feel comfortable, that MAGA feels comfortable, that everybody gets their answers, not by Ghislaine Maxwell coming out and saying, hey, it's all about, listen, Libeth, whatever your name is. If you don't like me turning around and interjecting as an attorney, you can leave. This isn't about you. This is called a conversation between two friends trying to educate a community. It's real simple here. What we want is the file. Plain and simple. That's all that we want. No Ghislaine Maxwell comment is going to change anything for me. I know it's not going to change anything for you. Here's the crazy thing. It's not going to change anything for MAGA either. They want to see the file.
As long as the other part of this too is you do have to protect the victims. But what also makes me sick to my stomach, Michael, is that Republicans like Mike Johnson will gaslight the American people into saying that they're not releasing any of the files because out of an abundance of caution to protect the victims. And that is a straw man argument, because you can protect the identities of the victims, but while redacting their names and anything that can identify them, but while we're also releasing other things that point in the direction of the actual predators involved here. So like the fact that they're using the survivors and the victims to piggyback on not disclosing the truth of what happened makes me sick to my stomach. Also, breaking news, I don't know if you saw this, but Pam Bondi just announced that the DOJ is opening a grand jury investigation into this Russiagate nonsense. This is what they're doing. The entire apparatus of the United States government right now is being used on our tax dimes to run cover for someone who has had to have our FBI scour the records from the Epstein case. He has the entire weight of the U.S. government running cover for someone who may or may not be implicated in a child sex trafficking case. That should rock us all to our core. That like the DOJ, the FBI, the DNI, etc., the DOD, they are all running interference so that we don't talk about what happened that they promised us they would reveal before realizing they'd stepped in it. And now they're running around themselves in circles trying to make sure that no one is ever actually held accountable for this thing that they promised. But our tax dollars are being used to protect predators, child predators. And like, that is absolutely disgusting. And frankly, when you put an adjudicated rapist who bragged about grabbing women by the pussy, a convicted felon, thanks in large measure to my friend here, when you put that person at the top, this is the inevitable reality that you're going to end up with, which, again, to bring this full circle, is why taking back the House is so critical, because so many of these things, these investigations, these overreaches, these cover-ups on our dime, so many of those things can be investigated if we get to be in charge of these committees. And that is so important. We have the subpoena power, and we have, the power of the committee, and we can have real accountability, and we can have a flashlight on so many of the things that they've been trying to hide from us in darkness. We didn't even get to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, but that's another conversation for another day.
One of the things, it's not just about the investigations, it's the investigations that are being stymied. Remember, it's not just that they're opening up these investigations like the one on the Russia hoax. And by the way, I think that's going to actually provide a lot of information too. I have been trying to get those documents for 5+ years now. I have a FOIA request and I have a lawyer on it. We have filed FOIA. We have notification that there's 486,000 documents just as it relates to me. 486,000, 5+ years on an expedited basis. I haven't gotten a single piece of paper. So damn straight, I'm looking forward to this investigation, but I just don't think it's going to turn out the information that they want to come out, very much like what's going on with the Epstein case. But I want it for myself. I want to know. I want to know who's involved. And by the way, I do believe Comey was involved.
What do you mean?
Well, when, for example, the Christopher Steele, the dossier, that was initially done by the Clinton campaign as opposition research.
Well, yeah, okay, but we have bipartisan committee reports that are very, very thorough. To the end, the Russians did try to interfere. They did not talk about it being set up by Comey or Clinton. This is this is again
but
a shiny look over.
That's not what this investigation is about.
Well, no, but it is, because they're saying it was all cooked up by Obama and Hillary Clinton. It's and Joe Biden.
That's part of the commentary coming out of the White House, but that's not the full basis of what this investigation is all about. It was more about why the file moved from person to person. For example, after the Clintons, it got into the hands, and who paid for it? Well, it was paid for by John McCain. Why he ended up acquiring this Steele dossier, nobody knows the answer. Why he gave it to Comey, nobody knows. Why they opened investigations into people off of a document that's unverified, uncorroborated, garbage, pure bullshit, right?
Well, some of the things in the Steele dossier are pure bullshit. However, but the data points that do point to Russian interference and Russian coordination in many ways, hello, Paul Manafort, that we're talking about here, that is, none of those things are manufactured. None of those things are a hoax. None of those things have to do with the Steele dossier, et cetera. And again, this is something that Democrats and Republicans have all agreed to, including Marco Rubio, including Tulsi Gabbard. So but this is they are talking about this being a hoax across the board, Michael. They're talking about
agreed.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that a lot of the stuff that came out in the Durham report is not accurate. It's just not accurate. And I don't give a shit if it's bipartisan or not. The problem is that the institution is protecting itself. And you know what? Like I said, I don't care. I want to see the documents. It's why I personally filed a FOIA. Look, my name appears in that Steele dossier more than anybody else's. I'm in there 11 times. And no matter how I tried to convince the American people, I've never been to Prague. I've never been to the Czech Republic. I've never been to Russia. I don't know compromise. I didn't go to pay anybody $10 million to protect Paul Manafort. I wouldn't pay 3 cents to protect Paul Manafort.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know also that you know, even though we do need transparency on all of it, right?
Yes.
You know that what they're doing right now is to distract us from the Epstein stuff. That is 100% what the goal here is. So that we're talking about this and we're talking about Sydney Sweeney, which, by the way, I don't give a flying fuck about.
I don't even get it.
Well, I'll say this to anybody who was offended in any way, shape, or form by that ad. I will say this because I think this is important. Your feelings are legitimate, and I see you and I see them. Whether or not I share your viewpoint is a different argument and different conversation. But you have every right to feel the way you feel. I don't ever want to delegitimize somebody's like honest to God gut reactions to something. That said, I don't share their viewpoints. I think what the right did was saw an opportunity via, some really big titties to make this about saying the left doesn't like sexiness and doesn't like femininity and that they're trying to cancel beautiful women and blondes. And, look, I selectively make my hair blonde when it's not. Okay. So if my side's trying to cancel blondes, I either have a problem or I'm an idiot, which I don't think I am. But yeah, so I don't even, these are all distractions because the scandal that they are trying to distract us from and cover up for is massive. Clearly, it's massive. And
it's not going away until we get the file.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, JoJo, let you close us out. We have about close to 1,400 folks with us.
1,700 is what I see.
Oh, sorry, 1,700.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at, I'll put my glasses on one more time to confirm that's a 7. Yes. I'll just close out by saying it's always good to have these conversations, Michael. You and I, we don't agree on everything. That's okay. Our origin story as human beings on this crazy roller coaster is as divergent as two people could probably get. But it proves the point that some things are bigger than some of our differences. And this moment in time is one of those. I was talking to somebody who used to be in Congress recently, and I said, I diverge on every political issue with this person except one. This person is against Donald Trump, and I'm against Donald Trump. And this person who used to be in Congress said, in this moment, that's the only difference, that's the only distinction that matters. We have to align on what actually matters right now, which is protecting and preserving this democracy from an authoritarian regime. Yes. And and remembering what the founders and the framers had in mind. And also, again, just to make this personal, when I think about the world as I found it and the hope when I held my babies in my arms for the first time, that they would find the world better than I found it, that I would leave it better for them. When I think about the idea that I might be leaving a broken democracy in the hands of wannabe fascists to my children who deserve better than that, to all of our children and grandchildren who deserve better than that, it makes me want to fight harder than I've ever wanted to fight for anything in my life. And it's why conversations across the political spectrum on things that we can all understand, things that resonate with us as human beings, resonate in our souls, protecting children, protecting the marginalized, looking out for the weakest of us, lifting all boats. These are things that we can agree on. We have more in common at the end of the day than that which divides us. And we have to remember that. So that's why I love having these conversations with you, because we're not going to see eye to eye on everything. We have our own worldviews, but we also share the same end goal, which is to move this country forward for everybody. So I'm so grateful to you. And for the 1,800 people who are here right now, thank you for being here. Because if you leave this conversation and go home or go to the gym or go to the pub or go wherever and have a little bit of this conversation with somebody else, then they talk to somebody else and they talk to somebody else and they talk to somebody else. And that's how we make the changes we seek organically in the way that this country was designed. So thank you for being here. And Michael, thank you for inviting me to be here with you today.
Always, always. I want to start doing these more often on Monday and keep building this community every single week. Next week, hopefully, if you're free, I have you back on same time, and maybe next time, each and every one of you do us the honor and bring a friend with you. We'll have 4,000 plus people, and then if you don't grow the community. And I talk about this all the time. If we don't grow the community, we're preaching to the choir. Yeah, you're right, Jojo. You and I, we may disagree on certain points. And I always refer back to the great mayor of New York, Ed Koch, who used to say, if you agree with me 6 out of 12 times, you should vote for me. If you agree with me 12 out of 12 times, you should see a psychiatrist. and he was right. Because where we are as different as, you said, two peas in any given pod, male, female, right? I mean, it's just, there's so many differences, in us, but here's what we both agree. We'll both agree that a child sex trafficker should be treated like shit and not given special privilege. And if you are going to provide special privilege, tell us why. You work for us.
Mm-hmm.
This is the mistake that too many people are making right now. They fail to understand the President of the United States and every representative works for the people. The people don't work for the president and the elected officials. They have lost their understanding of who works for who. They work for us, and we have rights to our answers. They are obligated to provide us with these answers. And I'm with you. I'm with you that the victims' names and information should absolutely be redacted, but everything else should be open. Open for us to look so that we don't have to engage in dialogue about what you think, what I think, what Carl thinks, what Mary thinks, what Joe thinks. Doesn't make a difference. Let's just go off of facts. And the facts exist. That's the point I keep trying to make. It's not like somebody has to go out and, interview 100 people. That's just already been done. There's already a massive file, yay big.
At least 100,000 files, at least 100,000 pages. Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of very bad people. I mean, they didn't traffic these girls to no one. A lot of very bad people have gotten away with a lot of very, very bad deeds. And that makes my stomach turn and it hurts my soul. And that's not a political issue. It doesn't, it's just not a partisan issue. That should sicken all of us. And if was accountability promised and then accountability denied, that's justice denied for all of us, for the survivors, for the victims, for their families. And we have to fight harder for the truth and for justice.
And we will do that each and every week. You're right. We had so much more to talk about. By the way, to those of you asking, if you want to get the book, just DM me. You know the drill. Just DM me and I'll tell you how to get it. Other than that, my JoJo, so great always to see you. I'm sorry that you got sad, but
Sorry.
I certainly understand it. And I think every single person that's with us today understands it as well. Trauma is a bitch, and your opening up is an inspiration to women everywhere. All right. And just know that. And I thank you, appreciate you, love you.
Thank you.
You're the best.
Love you too.
And
Thanks.
I really want to get this on. We're going to get this show on the road because we have a lot of people we need to talk to.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
All right. Go have fun today.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye,
Bye,
Michael.
JoJo.